Good morning. Today I want to talk about writing as a process, and I want to begin with just a simple observation. I don't know anyone who is a great writer. I know several people who are great rewriters. They get a draft, they work hard to make the draft as good as they can, but then they go through and they revise it again, and then they finally think about the spelling and the punctuation and the things that are associated with editing. Today, what I'd like to do is talk about the writing process, as I said before, go through and talk about the concept of RADaR and talk about the concept of cups and talk about the difference between revising and editing and why I think they're important. First of all, on the writing process, there's a dichotomy between what ought to be and the real world. I think in what ought to be, people take the time to plan. I believe I assigned this essay last Wednesday. I believe I posted it on D2L last Wednesday. It's due on Friday the 18th. So there's been about 10, 12 days where people have had time to work on the essay. That should give people plenty of time to plan something out, to write a draft, to fix the draft by revising, and then before handing it in, going through and doing an edit. I think in the real world, what happens is that the deadline starts approaching. People write something, they hope it's good enough, they hope it's met the elements of the assignment. They maybe do a spell check, look for the blue lines, squiggly lines, the red squiggly lines, and double check all of that. If they've got the means for Grammarly or something like that, they probably run it through Grammarly, and then they put it in the folder. That's not necessarily the way the writing process ought to work. And I think what's going to come next should give people tools to think about making the writing process work for them. Ideally, 20% planning, 30% drafting, 50% revising and editing. And I think more time spent revising than editing. Okay. The chart that I stole from the internet, time spent on random crap, time spent actually editing. I think that's the way most of us go about doing assignments, especially if we're pressed with a lot of assignments at the same time and we need a break and we check our Instagram or we play a couple of video games and all of a sudden we've spent a lot of time on random stuff and we haven't actually worked on revising or fixing the work we're supposed to turn in. And so we go to the plan of check it quickly, do a spell check, get it in the folder. Revising and editing are two different things. Revising is the big picture. Is this complete? Have I finished every element of the assignment? Have I covered my topic fully? Is it coherent? Does everything in there make sense? And is it unified? Are there details that maybe sound good but don't fit? Have I done everything I possibly can to make sure that I've got a thesis, I have followed the thesis all the way through, that my body paragraphs support the thesis, and I've stuck to one big picture thing? Editing is the stuff that you spend time on in a grammar class: spelling, punctuation, the sentences, whether it's run on sentences or whether it's subject verb agreement or whether it's some other sort of sentence error. Perhaps you've got the THEIR when you needed the THERE. Those sorts of things are under the editing thing. Okay? And so when we break things down between revising and editing, remember that revision is a big picture thing. Editing is at the sentence level, at the word level. I came across this 2 or 3 years ago, and I wish I had thought of it. But it gives you the acronym RADAR, and it gives you CUPS. RADAR is replace, add, delete, reorder. CUPS is capitalization, usage, punctuation, and spelling. RADAR is all about revising. Cups is all about editing. Replace. Vague or overused words. Writing should be specific, and writing should not repeat words unnecessarily. I think sometimes if people do a word count, they will be surprised how many times, for example, the word is put in their paper, or how many times they have inadvertently used the word you or the word I. Both of you should never be used unless it's speaking directly to a person. I should be reserved, for very rare occasions. And words like concept. What exactly is a concept? Okay. Think about the idea of what's the most specific word I can use, what's the most active word I can use. And then, are the sentences all clear? Are some of them poorly worded? Can we change those around? Adding necessary information, adding necessary modifiers, and transition phrasing. I think too many times when we get caught up in the revising process or the editing process, we think about the idea that we should only delete. We should, okay? Replace and add are also part of this, okay? Delete the unnecessary repetition. Sometimes it's important to repeat a key word or a key phrase. However, if you've repeated something in sentence one of a paragraph, or if you have made a statement in sentence one of the paragraph and you repeat it in line three of the paragraph and you repeat it again in line five of the paragraph, perhaps that is unnecessary repetition. Perhaps it's time to delete some of the details that don't move the paper along, that don't move the point along. And I think it's important to understand that if you delete something and you've got a 4-page paper, there are facts and arguments you can use to replace it. Okay? Remember, replace is also part of RADaR. And then reorder. Do the points flow logically? I talked about spatial order, the idea from front to back or from left to right. I've talked about chronological order, the first thing, the second thing, the third thing. You can create a hierarchy. This is the most important. This is the second most important. This is the third most important. You can talk about step by steps. This is the recipe that you have to follow. First, you add this, then you add this, then you add this. In this case, the recipe is do the RADaR first. Replace, add, delete, and reorder first. Cups. Capitalization. A lot of the daily writings, for example, had common nouns, just everyday nouns capitalized. Remember, only proper nouns have to be capitalized. Only the names of specific persons, places, and things have to be capitalized. The usage. By usage, we're talking about things like the there, and there. Have you used the proper one? We're talking about subject verb. He is, not he are. We're talking about does the word mean what you want it to mean in this context? Are the definitions that you are supplying, are they proper definitions for this paper? And then verb tense. Should it be has? Should it be had? Which tense works? Is it past, present, future? If you are using two past events, which one needs a have or a has in front of it, which one doesn't? Those sorts of things I think are important. Use the tense. Punctuation. Remember that commas cannot be used to split complete sentences. You need either a semicolon or a period, and then you have a capitalized letter at the next word. You can perhaps have a semicolon, however, comma, proper punctuation. Remember that in this class, you need the Oxford comma when you have the series and the list. And then finally, spelling. As I've mentioned before, both Google Docs and Microsoft Word give you the red lines if the word is spelled wrong. They'll also give you blue lines for questions that you may have about whether the usage is done properly. Look at those. I mean, if that paper comes into the folder and I start correcting it and I see misspelled words and the red line is there, that's on you. Okay? I've spent a lot of time in the classroom. I've been a teacher for a long time, and I've worked hard to get students to understand writing is a process. This is what you need to do when you write. Okay. I do think that this idea of radar and cups, these acronyms, and remembering what the acronyms stand for. And if you let me, I'm just going to back up here very, very quickly. Remembering what the acronyms stand for: replace, add, delete, and reorder. Okay. And then for cups, remember that it's capitalization, usage, punctuation, and spelling. Remember what the acronyms are, remember what the acronyms stand for, and use this tool because it's one of the best tools I've ever seen for making your paper better. And allow me to just offer a couple of suggestions here. Suggestion number one: if you are, I'm just going to rush through things because I've got 47 different assignments that I need to get done. Try to move the composition assignment from Thursday night back earlier to Tuesday night. Type up that rough draft, do it as quickly and as you have to, kind of get it done. Then save a little time on Thursday to go through and run the radar and cups process. I think that'll accomplish a couple of things. Number one, in the heat of the moment, people miss things. Okay? When people are in a hurry, they overlook things. And if people are rushed because they're trying to get something in the folder by 11:59, okay, and it's 12 or it's 11:15, the chance of catching all the errors that you should catch are minimal, especially if you've just finished the draft. If, however, you're looking at a draft that you worked on 2 days ago, some of the errors will seem really obvious and a lot of the corrections will be a lot easier. So, in addition to the radar and cups, I'm urging you to give yourself a little more time. Switch the workload around a little bit so that you can do a quick draft on a Tuesday night and come back and do the revising and editing on the Thursday night or Wednesday night, preferably the Wednesday, but I understand how things work. We're going to be working on this tool during the writing groups. We'll also be working on something called the paramedic method during the writing groups. Hope all of you have a good day, and we'll see you in the next class period.